video I want to talk about a word which isn't used often enough by the people, yet it actually has great impact and would have prevented a lot of nonsense in the world, if you think about it. And that word is a simple no. No in itself holds incredible power if you say what you mean and mean what you say. By saying yes, you of course are showing that you're willing to help someone, you're willing to be there. For example, that being your good nature. And that in itself is a great thing, but there always needs to be a balance. Otherwise, you will be taken advantage of over time without even realizing it. People say yes because, for example, at the workplace, because of the power dynamics, they are afraid to be seen in a bad light, for example, by their boss. Even though they are overburdened by stuff that they have to do, they will still say yes. They will not even dare to explain in a proper way why they, for example, cannot do something anymore because they are occupied with other things. And actually, that would benefit them greatly by saying no, by standing their ground and explaining in detail why certain things cannot be done. Be it, for example, at the workplace, once again, any authority figure in public, or for example, someone holding a camera and pointing them towards them, suddenly they are in the spotlight. And what do most people do? They want to be seen in a good light. They don't want to be seen as the bad guy or the bad girl who's able to say no. And here we already have actually a critical point to look at. By saying no, you show the world or the people around you that you have boundaries, that you have standards, that you have self-esteem because you're able to say no. Most people are all the time saying yes, even though they are not able to help or they just don't want to help in reality, yet they still say yes because they want to be seen in a good light, even though it would greatly benefit them to say no because they have financial problems, they have emotional problems, they have local problems, time problems. They just cannot help, yet they still say yes. And that is a great problem because that is someone who is being later on identified as a people pleaser. And a people pleaser is usually someone with low self-esteem who is unable to hold their ground in an argument. Once again, they want to be seen in a good light. They want to be seen by everyone as the good person, the one who's helping, the one you can rely on all the time, even if they themselves are completely burdened by all their other problems that they are facing in their life. Yet they still take on the problems of other people because once again, and it's always once again, they want to be seen in a good light. That is a people pleaser. They would actually, by saying no, standing their ground, benefit from that over a course of a certain amount of time. In the beginning, it might be painful to say no for a people pleaser because of the benefits in the beginning that they earned, that the people always come to them. The people are joyful when it comes to problems. Hey, can you help me? Yes, because they know this particular person is always going to be there, is always going to help, and will never say no. And that is the part of that I mentioned earlier. You will be taken advantage of sooner or later without even realizing it. And that is going to drain you dry over a course of a certain amount of time. By saying no, you would actually start an argument eventually. And by holding your ground and properly explaining everything that needs to be explained, whatever it is, you would sooner or later gain respect. Even if the people then suddenly start to dislike you. That is another thing that is very important to understand. Just because you are earning respect, you are demanding respect, you are commanding respect, doesn't mean that everyone is going to like you. Whatever you might have done in your life prior, be it for yourself, personal gain, or you have done great things for the entire populace, even then, you will still have people who are going to dislike you, who are going to hate on you, who are going to write nasty comments about you, because they are all the time looking in flaws. You are able to say no. They are unable to say no. They need to say yes. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Whatever the case may be. By saying no, The people who have the same mindset you have, they are going to respect you because these people are able to, well, remember what they have gone through in order to gain financial success, personal success, whatever it is, because people like that, they have to sacrifice in order to gain something. They have to endure for a long period of time certain things to get from A to B. They have to show willpower to endure the things that they have to go through, while other people are unable to do so. They would break immediately, basically. And these people, once again, with the same mindset, can remember all these things that they have gone through. And that's why they are going to respect you. They might not like you, but they will respect you. A very great example might be in the army. The drill sergeant yelling at the recruits all the time. And you might not like him, and he might not like you, but you do everything that he is going to say. At the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of the academy, whatever that is, he might remember you, he might respect you. And you will be, in his mind, maybe because of the success or the things or how you approach certain things and you have accomplished them in a very quick time, you will be probably remembered by him eventually for the rest of your life. That is great respect. Because why should someone remember anyone who is gray, who is like in the mass? You're not going to remember the masses. You're going to remember certain people because the spotlight is on that particular individual, not on the masses. There's hundreds of thousands of faces. Who's going to remember that? But if one of them, two of them, three of them are speaking in that crowd, the spotlight is on them. They do great things. They do stuff, I don't know. This is just an example for the population. They speak for rights. They speak for what is going wrong in the world, you know? They say no to the system. These people will be remembered because other people will want to know about them. Who's that? Can I find them on the internet? Can I find them in a magazine? Can I find them somewhere? Maybe they're living in a neighborhood and they just didn't know before, you know? Great opportunity to talk, great opportunity to form relationships and many other things, actually, if you think about it. You just allow it to happen. Saying no also is a great thing when it comes to the power dynamic, once again, especially in the family. For example, a father and son dynamic, mother and daughter, or any other case, basically. Your parents, for example, you probably can remember when you were younger, they wanted you to do certain things. They wanted you to study certain things. They had a life plan already in mind for you. Most people probably go with the life plan because they don't want to be, once again, not seen in a bad light. They want to receive love from their parents. By saying no, you start arguments because you have a different goal in your mind. You are going to approach life differently than your parents. If you have healthy parents, a healthy parents in their mind, you know, mentally healthy parents. Over time, by what you're doing, even if you're going against their wishes, for example, they see and realize that this is going to make you happy, that you are actually just approaching life at a different angle and you are successful in a different way. And if they're mentally healthy and if they're grounded and they're just good people, they're going to see that and they're going to respect you. They're going to respect you with everything that you, for example, went against all those years prior. A people pleaser, a child learning to become a people pleaser, will not go against their parents, even though their heart is screaming at them, even though they just wish that they had enough power to go against parents, but they didn't. And they later on, most likely, 99.9999% are going to regret their decisions. But that's probably 10, 20, 30 years later, not now. not just a few years later. Yeah, you should become a doctor and not an architect. You should become an architect, not a doctor. You should become a lawyer, not a designer. You should become whatever, blah, blah, blah. Crazy. And if children go against that, arguments are certain. It's just a thing. Because in many cases, also parents with low self-esteem, they might have failed at life prior. They might have failed in school. They might have failed at certain places at work that they had tried to get into. They didn't accomplish certain goals in a certain time. Now they see their child as an extension, an extended arm of themselves, so the child better behaves. And children who are afraid to go their own way while they want to receive love, even though that love is not love, that's just a conditional love. Unconditional love is that you allow, as a parent, for example, the children to develop on their own. You just make sure that they are safe. You don't hinder their progress. You don't hinder certain information. You make sure that the child has as much opportunity, as much possibility, as much information as possible. That's the job of a parent. Not to oppress, not to hinder progress. But we know what a lot of parents are doing. They're hindering progress and they want children to go certain routes. You shouldn't study that kind of stuff. You shouldn't be involved with those friends, even though their friends might be beneficial. You shouldn't be in love with that guy, that girl, because they are from a different religion. Even though, once again, that could benefit. Information is shared. Muslim, Christian, Buddhism, any other religion. It's a very crazy thing to just know that in a lot of things, the children learn early on, not just school, but also parents, if they can go against a authority figure or not. That determines if a child has strength or not, because the child later on is the adult, and the adult later on is saying yes and not no. Even though saying no would benefit them. It would benefit them by preventing their time, for example, being wasted with a moron who is taking advantage of that. You would not listen to certain people gossiping all the time. Whoever is gossiping, talking trash behind someone else's back, is not a real friend. And you should distance yourself from these people because you can be assured that they are talking bad about you as well when you're not around. Saying no shows also that you have options. Now, let me explain. By saying no, you show that you value yourself, you value your time, you value your resources. You just, for example, don't want to help because you want to be left alone in that very moment. People who say no oftentimes are seen as arrogant, as bad, as someone who is egotistical, stuff like that. But in reality, once you make it, for example, in that circle of people who have high standards, you're going to realize that they actually are very friendly. They're very helpful. They even want to overhelp at certain times. They want to overshare certain resources because they know that you are someone like them. That's why it's very important to all the time look for like-minded people, because once you are in that state of people, in that state of environment, that energy where everything is possible, and you know that these 7, 8 people, for example, think the same way, they have the same goals, life becomes joyful, it becomes easy, it becomes stressless. There's only positive stress, which challenges you. And these people are going to help you. But everyone else who is not worth the time, no, they're going to say no. And they're going to say more no than yes. Because there's a reason behind that. You don't want to waste your time. And whoever is able to say no doesn't care to be seen in a bad light. You just don't care because you know your worth, you know your resources, you know what you can offer someone, and you're not gonna waste it on someone else who's not worth the time. Once a healthy person, a person with their integrity intact, their honor intact, self esteem intact, is able to see that, because everyone has a different limit. Some people realize or say, I helped them once or twice, they didn't appreciate it in any way. I'm not going to help anymore. Someone else might be saying that with 6 or 7 times. Someone else might be, oh, I've just noticed 5 months later, by realizing, remembering all the past interactions. 5 months have passed and they actually didn't appreciate it. They didn't come towards me to help me. They didn't sacrifice certain opportunities with family members, with friends, with work, to be around me, to, I don't know, meet with me at a cinema, to play computer games with me. And then they say, okay, no means no. I'm not going to help you anymore. I'm not going to spend time with you anymore. I'm not going to waste my time or structure my day in a different way to be around you. No, that's it. Over. And you have to earn the respect back. That means you start to say no. And they, sooner or later, are going to realize, hey, something has changed with that person. They're not wanting to play anymore. They're not wanting to hang out around anymore. They're not wanting to meet at the cinema anymore. They're not wanting to hang around at the family anymore. Family events, for example. They say more often no than yes at work, and are able to properly explain why they cannot take on certain objects, certain tasks anymore. They're simply not afraid to be disliked. They're simply not afraid to be seen in a bad light. They're simply saying no. Which has, once again, it holds great power in itself. And on a final note, I want to mention the power of no, because I mentioned it like 3 or 4 times how much power it actually holds. If you look at human history, the power of no had been, was, is going to be, and always will be that simple force that is able to end a tyranny. Be it in a village, be it in a state, be it all over the planet. It's just the power of no and never yes. So that is something you should keep in mind. Start to say no more often. Start to be more confident. Start to talk in front of the mirror. Have a conversation in your mind about how you are able to change a discussion with just the word no. Have the courage to be yourself. I could talk on important topics for hours. I can also smell great whiskey, great cognac for hours. To me, the act of enjoying whiskey, the act of enjoying alcohol in general, is more about the taste, the smell, finding more out about the history of a certain distillery, about the founders of that distillery, the history in itself, the process of making that whiskey, that vodka, cognac, gin, and simply smelling, enjoying the atmosphere with classic music, for example, watching these maggots, having a relaxed atmosphere. An aquarium in itself is very relaxing to the soul. And by doing so, you do it actually like a gentleman, not like these noobs who all the time consume alcohol in levels of, well, I don't want to say it, it's like very harmful. It's very bad to the body and to the soul. You should, if you are into alcohol, if you are into cigars, completely enjoy it. Because you know you are the master of yourself. That I mentioned a few times in my videos. For example, when it comes to the master bedroom, are you a master of self? The resting place should be, at least if you're not an organized person, should be the one room completely organized, dust free, clean. So you actually show that you are a master of yourself, you're a master of an environment. If you show that in the external world, you're clean up here and here. And you are a person of inner strength that cannot be shaken on by the outside world, by the outside opinions and influences. You simply don't care because you know what's true and what isn't.